one of the biggest, I think, obstacles that we as a collaborative company face is the ideas that are always in the room at the same time in a physical way, and that those ideas don't necessarily have to be vocalized, but as dancers we can feel intuitively, or because we've danced with someone over a course of many years, we kind of get a sense of how they might be feeling or reacting to something. And I think that without that kind of direct human-to-human contact of communication, it gets very, very difficult to feel where others are, you know, in an artistic way, in an emotional way, in an intellectual way.
Yeah, I feel like it is hard to not be in person with everyone because of how much I think MJDC thrives on full collaboration in the room, but I do feel like, for myself at least, being in a more isolated process with fewer people in person has allowed my voice to come through more, and also for me to kind of deal with my issues of authority with authority, and how to like be able to like bring myself forward fully and have my voice come through as it is outside of the studio. And I feel that from other people as well who aren't usually heard in the big group. And it's nice to feel that confidence building and hear stronger voices.
We're so used to being in the room with somebody else. You know, I miss being able to dance with somebody, dance next to somebody. And there's this sort of unspoken collaboration just by being in the same room as somebody. And so there's been a lot of having to, you know, pull from my own arsenal and inspire myself in that sense, you know, creating with myself for myself, which is all things that I'm not really used to doing. Early on in the process, you know, we were working on solos, and the thing that I chose to sort of explore was my upbringing and how, you know, that sort of brings me into the person that I am today. And I feel like that was really interesting because that's something that I wouldn't normally go towards. I oftentimes tend to take things from the outside and, you know, inspiration from the outside. So that was really interesting and something that I wouldn't have done if I wasn't so isolated.
A nice thing about it has been that I'm able to dive in deeper to what's churning on the inside and really what I'm feeling and what's coming up, and exploring the movement quality and the movement, even the gestures and the physicality that is really coming to the surface in me.
Given, you know, the pandemic and current events that are happening in our world right now, that I've become a more emotional person, where I feel like I'm so used to putting on the face and, you know, let's have a good time. It's always about having a good time, and sometimes it's okay to not do that. You know, my challenge this time around was using my emotions to make pieces or make a solo, and because I'm more in tune with my emotions, I feel like they go hand in hand, and I hope to continue to work that way because it's more fulfilling than just making something to make something.
None of our family lives here. We haven't seen them in over a year. And so there's this warmth, this excitement that comes on every call. We have family calls every week, or sometimes my kids call my parents just to have them read books. And so there's something that's almost like the real thing about that experience, and it has closed the gap in many ways. But there's a tension as soon as the call ends. There's an emptiness that I kind of feel right away that I know I wouldn't feel if we had just spent time with them and had hugs at the end of a visit. I feel like this is a really clear parallel in how we're working. We have relationships between recorded and live dancers, and it will be choreographed, and so it will be really close. But I wonder what that distance is and how that will affect the work.
It's been a challenge working with video and without having the full company in rehearsals. Every voice means something, every body movement means something, so to have 4 people in a space and then 4 people not in a space has been difficult, especially when trying to make sure that everybody is heard. Yeah, and I feel like as the company as a whole, we all vibe off of each other's energies, and that's one of the reasons why rehearsals are so fun, because sometimes it's goofy, sometimes it's more serious and technique based, and not having that element and having to self-motivate has been a challenge.
A theme that has really come up in this work so far is the relationship that we have to the virtual world. Especially with the duet that I have with Chin, where we're really playing with those two mediums, and I feel it when Chin is not there, that even though she is virtual, even though she is projected, that when she's in the room, when she's in the space, it's so different. And in a way that relates to the relationships that we are trying to continue and move forward with our friends and our family over Zoom or over virtual spaces, and that it helps to connect in that way, but it's certainly not the same at all.
Working this way, more isolated, a lot of time in the beginning through video, started with a lot of discomfort, and that discomfort came from not understanding technology in relationship with my body. It really came from not knowing how to communicate. Nobody taught us how to communicate over Zoom. Learning when it's time to mute, when it's time to unmute, all those little things creates a lot of discomfort while you're figuring out your life, your health, your family, and the whole society. Now I think we're learning more. What does it mean to put my body in front of camera? Where am I being seen and where am I being seen? Which part of my body tells the story that I want to tell? When we are in a theater, there's no questions like that. You know, the version you perform is the version being seen. And now sometimes I think I need to record at least 3 times, find the best version, right? So that mindset is also something to rethink about. What are we getting stuck on?
This time has changed me in the way that it's made it so much more important and given like a different emphasis on giving space to everyone in the room or process, regardless if they're in the room or not, to what they're feeling and to what their full experience is, no matter how it might come across to someone else, but that we are able to like kind of loosen our grip a little bit and see where other people are coming from. This time has also made me a lot more conscious in how art is impacting others or not impacting others, and what that means for me as a dancer, as an artist. And also moving forward, I know it's necessary for me to have art exist with a focus on equity as well, and how that can intertwine and intermingle and grow together. Bringing awareness around like different types of people in the room and different struggles, and where different people come from, and how to like get us all in an equal playing field, and that it might look different for me versus another dancer, and to like allow space for that and allow support for whoever is in the room at whatever place they're in.
You know, I've always believed that representation is important, and I think that we should all have a seat at the table and be able to tell our stories. And I think my experience has been in the dance world that there's a lot of talk of that, but the actual doing of it doesn't really happen, or doesn't happen in the ways that it should. So I feel like we're now in the space where we really are being faced with it. But I feel like it goes beyond just race. I think it goes, to the individual, and what are their gifts and what do they bring to the table. How do you really present a situation where you're really elevating people and helping them elevate themselves to be better and to move upward? I think it touches on so much of not just it being a superficial thing, but it being really something that you really genuinely do and really feel. And I feel like that's something that artistically that I really also needed to address. Because I think all the years that I've worked, I think this, especially this time with you, I've really been able to really investigate that.
Current events unquestionably are affecting how and what I bring to this work. This pandemic, which has more deeply shown a lot of inequities in our country, the social justice uprising, the movement for Black Lives, the climate crisis. We've been out on this deck on the day when the sky was red and black. And these experiences live in the body. And so I think the relentlessness of this year, of the experiences that we feel, of the experiences that we see others in our community, in our country, in our world having, are now living in our bodies.
I've discovered about myself as an artist that I identified solely as an artist. And so when this pandemic started and things were shut down, I couldn't teach. I'm used to teaching every day. I couldn't take class. Like, what is it to be a professional dancer, not dancing professionally? What is it to be a dance teacher, not teaching? That was very hard on me. So I had to come to terms with if I was okay with that. Am I okay identifying as an artist, as a dancer solely, or is there something else about me? When the dancing and the artistry becomes such an easy outlet, you know, it feels good, it's good for your body, it has so many benefits, and then it's like, what else do I do? What else can I do? Am I worth other things? Yeah, it's a difficult thing to tackle, and I'm still working on that. I have other hobbies and of course other things that I've practiced and I feel like I'm proficient at, but my heart of hearts solely, like I feel like I identify as an artist. So that's been a journey.
What I've discovered about myself as an artist is that being an artist is hard in this pandemic. It's really, really difficult, but it's not all bad. I think that seeing just the dance community and just seeing the resilience kind of coming up through this, different companies and artists making work in the way that they can, has been really inspiring to me. And you know, it's a good reminder that we will kind of make it through and make it through the end, to the end, other side of the end.
You know, I have spent quite a bit of time doing classes at home, and because I haven't been in my normal situation of being able to, of being in a position of just kind of just going for it, if that makes sense. It's been more of a time of pulling back and doing less, but actually focusing on details and focusing on strengthening and I don't know, just like little things, you know, just like little things that I think that, you know, sometimes bypass in the bigger picture. When we're operating at full speed, we sometimes, I think, miss things, and it's been a chance to really kind of go back and, okay, yeah, I used to do this better. How can I improve that? Or, you know, and especially with having time on your hands, you know, you're like, okay, this is the opportunity to do those things. I expect a lot of myself. I'm kind of hard on myself, I think, as I think we all are, but I'm learning to not be, and I'm learning to not get so in my head about it, and to really try to make the physical form make sense to me, and to really try to show that in my work, the physical ideas I'm trying to express, and maybe not, you know, I think it's so much in here all the time that I think it's sometimes it kind of holds me back a little bit. So I'm really, during this period, I'm really trying to break that apart a bit.
I'm very curious about CD dancing with herself, and the idea of all of us dancing with ourselves through this time, and what that feels like and looks like, and what it really means to see yourself on a big projector and have a duet with yourself, and how kind of like loving that is. That really brings me a lot of like joy.
That's interesting because I do see it that way, but I also see it as not cynical, but being very critical of oneself, where sometimes you can get lost in your own mind and second guess yourself or put judgment on what you've done. So there's an element of, I think, of duality in the CD solo with herself, duet with herself, in that we get to see that love and care, and at the same time it's like looking back at a past self, or maybe jumping to a forward self, and kind of being like, what would I have done differently, or am I doing the right thing, you know? Yeah. So I think that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, all the facets of a relationship, I feel,
Yeah.
but with yourself.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Thanks, guys.
Guess what?
We haven't learned sharing.
No, no, but look what I have.